Springfield Sports Complex is a place located 30 minutes from the Brisbane CBD, in the Springfield suburb in the city of Ipswich. Work on the complex started in 2017 and was opened mid-2019. The vision of the developer Langleys, developer of the nearby award-winning Springfield Lakes, was to create a 5-minute community where residents have everything they need within reach. Thus, having sports fields was very important. The precinct located on Sportside Drive boasts 4 multi-purpose sports fields, an athletics track, 16 netball courts, 8 tennis courts, 3 clubhouses with canteens, and 2 kids' playgrounds along with ample car parking. LED smart lighting allows events and activities to be held all through the day to night. There are over 11,000 students in the Springfield area and growing by 1,200 each year. The complex is part of a commitment to the health and well-being of its residents. The presentation focuses on how to observe the people and the physical environment of the setting and the interaction involved, then use the information to understand how people may be thinking or feeling and the way they behave as they interact. This will be used to develop my design to enhance the setting. Does it relate to the 3 topics discussed within the unit and related readings? The 3 topics include observing the spatial orientation and concerning with the function or performance of the setting, the psychological aspect concerning personality and identity within the setting, and finally the psychosocial or social factors in concerning personal and public spaces within the setting, and other factors they may include while observing the setting. By observing the setting within the complex, the task is to analyze and to observe the setting in the overall context and also observe the specific area within the setting itself. As we observe closely of the complex, the task is to record and to observe what is happening during the different times of the days. These include different times of the week, and how does it compare in terms of the topics covered in the introduction. While observing the complex, the information gathered and recorded at these times of the days, which includes from lunch to afternoon to after dinner time, throughout the week at different times of the day. While exploring the complex in its overall context, the physical appraisal is to determine how does the size configuration and the location size of the complex relates in terms of people interacting with the space itself. The physical aspects of the complex include 4 large fields, 16 netball courts, 8 tennis courts, 2 playgrounds, 3 clubhouses, and at least 3 to 4 schools in the neighborhood context. Since the Springfield Sports Complex is in the Springfield vicinity, the transportation slightly increases in terms of buses and cars getting towards the location. The basic information while observing and gathering information of the Springfield Sports Complex is how efficient in transportation to the Springfield Sports Complex and its entirety. Throughout the local area of the complex, there are new situated bus stops being added in the area for more accessibility and building and the complex itself. Due to COVID-19, the amount of people mainly uses cars rather than buses to get around the places, especially near the schools around the complex itself. Environmental perception is to understand how individuals interact with their environments, which will help understand the particular features of the environment settings influence the attitudes and behaviors of visitors of the complex. I will use Egon Sprungsrich's probabilistic functionalism approach about the way people perceive and interpret settings. Using the lens models to gather information on the settings, we look at the sealed cues and select some proximal cues to lead to some evaluative conclusions about the complex is perceived. Of course, different perceivers will select the way different cues. I will try to select the most important cues to help with the design that will function effectively. That is the probabilistic nature of the Brunswick theory, is that there are a large number of useful environmental cues depending on the individual, and then choose useful cues that my design is focused on the proximal cues. For the Springfield Sports Complex, there are many distilled cues in its physical environment. It is highly functional with 4 ovals, each having 2 playing fields and its many netball and tennis courts. There are also clubs and children playgrounds to cater to families where there are sports events on and ample car park space. In terms of comfort, although there is no grandstands, all the fields and courts are directly physically accessible by players and spectators to roam around to any field or courts, but as well as any other time, Anybody can use the ovals and courts as it is open to the public for free use. Clubs have canteen amenities, making it inviting for families to come and enjoy themselves wherever it is playing or spectating. Therefore, some of the proximal cues could be inviting because of the number of playing areas it has to offer. Clubs with canteens, ample car parking, paths that help people to walk around. But it also could be uninviting where there is a fence on and could give a sense of exclusiveness to those who are there to play. Another proximal cue is the safety in the main road. Sportside Drive is a safe distance away from the playing areas, with car parking areas creating a safe low-speed zone area. In consideration of important aspects of the person and language equation, we will look at environmental personality to find the stable traits and reflected in different responses to different environments. Although the complex has been developed on clear bushland and leveled, it is centrally located near the main Centenary Highway for buses and visiting schools or clubs or the train station nearby. The main private and public schools and surrounding housing estates. Therefore, it provides a clean, flat, open space that provides and freely access from schools and clubs to residents and visitors. It is spacious enough to accommodate large sports events, but individuals and small groups can use exercise and well-being. Personal space is a bubble of space or interpersonal distance defining how close we will approach other people and allow other people to approach us, and this depends largely on the relationship we have with those people involved, and society and culture we are accustomed. There are three different types: personal space, social distance, and public distance. In the sports complex, there are many instances of these types occurring on the playing fields or courts, and in the kids' playgrounds, and also around the car park central areas and concrete paths. This is the part due to minimal barriers around the place for humans to roam, and curbing impulse to restrict vehicular access and large safe distances from the main roads feeding into the precinct, as well as the Springfield community has a large number of mixed and indigenous cultures that seem to be largely intermingled with each other well due to the open spaces. Individual seems to be able to exercise freely whilst there are coach training exercises occurring, alongside kids riding bicycles and scooters or playing ball in another field or court. With the COVID-19 pandemic, people tend to focus on keeping the distances within their own family or social groups, and respecting social distancing with other people being antisocial. Crowding in public spaces is a major concern for designers, architects, and facility managers for disability access. In the case of the sports complex, it is so large and spacious that when there are large groups of people, it may be overwhelming where to go or are dropped off a long distance away from the venue because disabled spaces are considered secondary or an afterthought. At the sports complex, disabled car park spaces are centrally located at the oval or courts, are wider and feature in the middle space with a pole to prevent illegal parking in the disabled area. The rest of the car park is organized in a way to divert drop-off zone traffic and not interfere with the disabled drivers slowly driving into the car park. To highlight any problem areas of the sports complex so they can be addressed for design improvements in area of function and well-being needs. In terms of considering the observations and behavior mentioned previously, most of the problem areas are dealing with a large space when there are large single or multiple crowds and keeping the area safe and functional when residents or visitors come when there are no crowds. A redesign is to design a barrier feature that is to define the space and forces the people to use the path to its potential. Also designing it to accommodate the use of seating and safety feature for blocking the ball of the netball from flying. The other aspect of this issue as to why the barrier is to be placed in the location is because of the well-being needs of people and safety issues. When the example of kids riding bikes on the netball courts itself, and it's a way for smaller kids not to go directly onto the courts. Since the Springfield Sports Complex is a new area within the Springfield vicinity, there isn't much change to be made yet, especially when there are less people visiting the site due to COVID-19. During my visits and kept observing the site, majority of the people in the area are mainly kids who enjoy sports after school, right before going home, and families on the weekend enjoying the scenery. Salutogenesis, introduced by Argan Antiphase, is a study of health origins and causes, where it starts to considering health and look proactively how you can create, enhance, and improve well-being physically and mentally and sexually. This is opposed to pathogenesis, which is what the current situation is with COVID-19. While we try to avoid being infected with the viral pathogen by social distancing, wearing masks, hand washing, and limit ourselves socially to avoid near contact. This is not to say we should choose one practice over the other. On the contrary, they are complementary, whereas pathogenesis concentrates on managing negative health, salutogenic approaches to health are necessary to address future changes towards the positive health. The assumption of salutogenic proposed by Antiphase implies that action needs to occur to move the individual towards better health, that is, being proactive, not reactive, as it is would be in pathogenic approaches.